serial killer is somebody that seeks out hurting people, causing harm to people, and that's exactly what Alexander Hernandez did.
In 2014, a serial killer was on the loose in Los Angeles, and for 6 months, no one knew it.
He is calmly, methodically hunting and killing people.
Over those 6 months, 5 people were murdered, 11 more were wounded. Those victims all shot while sitting in their cars, chosen at random, never knowing their life was in danger.
And I remember seeing a man sitting with one arm on the steering wheel and one arm sitting like this with a revolver, just pointing at me.
That man, Alexander Hernandez, would later be called the Valley Killer. It all began on March 14th, 2014. It was 1 in the morning. The body of 35-year-old Sergio Sanchez was found here behind me in his car on the Roxford Street off-ramp of the 210 freeway in Sylmar. Road workers reported seeing 2 cars speeding down the freeway before the shooting. Investigators thought Sanchez may have been racing another driver before being shot to death. But the evidence told a different story.
It was clear from the scene that Sergio hadn't been shot to death there at the off-ramp. The shooting had happened elsewhere. There was no auto glass at the location, and that crime went unsolved. What we believe happened is he was not racing on the freeway. He was fleeing for his life because he was being shot at.
Witnesses reported the other vehicle spotted on the freeway was a large SUV, a vehicle prosecutors would later say Alexander Hernandez used to commit a series of murders. Sanchez would be his first victim, shot to death for no reason.
Whoever took somebody's life like this is a coward, man. This is somebody that didn't deserve that. This is the most humble person in the world you will ever meet, the most honest person, the most caring.
Just 10 days later, Hernandez would strike again, this time in Burbank, following Mario Gamboa on the freeway and opening fire. Gamboa tried to flee, crashing into a fence on an overpass. He was shot in the back but made it to a hospital. He would be okay. Then, weeks later, on April 27th, Hernandez would come across Luis Valdez, who was sleeping in his car outside an apartment building. Hernandez shot Valdez multiple times, but he would survive. In both cases, the gunfire coming from a large SUV and from the same handgun used to kill Sergio Sanchez. For Julian Archer, the Valley Killer struck a few weeks later, on prom night. It was now May 2014. Julian was 19 years old, spending his time working, skating with his friends, and going to college. He had graduated high school the year before, but his girlfriend was a senior. He took her to prom, stayed out late, and dropped her off at her home in Chatsworth. It was 4 in the morning. He stopped at a red light.
I saw like headlights from behind me in the rearview mirror, and I remember thinking to myself, like, that's weird that anybody is awake in this neighborhood at 4 a.m. So I turned to my right just to see who it is, and I remember seeing a man sitting with one arm on the steering wheel and one arm sitting like this with a revolver just pointing at me. And then I put my head down, and I just remember hearing like gunshots shooting.
4 of those bullets fired from a handgun hit Julian.
So I'd felt the bullets like hitting me, and I knew I was getting shot. And then I heard him like screech off.
Julian called 911.
911 emergency, I'm for the 656.
I've been shot again on Mayo and Corbin. I've been shot like 4 times.
Julian soon lost consciousness. His car idled down the street, coming to rest against a tree.
One of the last things I remember after the shooting was thinking like, oh, I'm gonna die here. And I believe I bled out for I think like 20 minutes before getting to the hospital. Huge thank you to the paramedics. They completely saved my life. I'd be dead without those guys. I think I got like over 30 blood transfusions, like 30 bags of blood, because I had lost so much blood. I had 0 blood pressure when I arrived at the hospital. There's no reason I should be alive. Like, I should have died there.
Julian spent months in the hospital. Bullets had riddled his body. He suffered injuries to his neck, his shoulder. Several organs were damaged. His spleen had to be removed, and one bullet hit his T12 vertebrae, damaging his spine. Julian was partially paralyzed.
I was paralyzed for a long time in the hospital. I remember at the time wanting to be sad about it, but I had to just focus on surviving. One day, one of my toes just started like doing this when I would try. And that's when they knew like, oh, you're getting movement back. Slowly and slowly, I started getting some movement back. But even that is extremely painful because it's like your nerves come back, but the nerve pain comes back.
Nearly 10 years later, Julian still deals with that pain. He takes medication daily to ease the burning and shaking in his legs. He uses a cane to walk, but he is alive. He returned to college, now in Hawaii, working on a bachelor's degree in psychology. For detectives at the time, Julian's shooting was a mystery. He had no enemies, and detectives had not linked the shootings together. All of the crimes occurred in the San Fernando Valley, but were spread apart and worked by different divisions of the LAPD. It would be months before these cases would be solved. There would be more victims, and Hernandez would change his pattern. The Valley Killer's shooting spree would continue on Father's Day 2014. Arthur Gerard was taking his 2 sons and a friend to go fishing at Hansen Dam in the San Fernando Valley. He stopped at a gas station, and when he left, he noticed a car following him.
This time it was not an SUV. It was a 4-door Honda Accord with a flower lei in the window. As they were driving on the freeway, Mr. Gerard and his friend Mr. Dibble noticed this car following them, and they were like, why is this car following us? And they started watching it, and he even started changing lanes to say, try to avoid this car and get away from it.
Gerard pulled over to the side of the freeway. Alexander Hernandez, behind the wheel of that Honda Accord, pulled over too. Gerard approached him.
And when he got back to the car, he sees what he says is a Hispanic male wearing prescription eyeglasses, and he goes to say to the guy, why are you following me? And he says the man just puts his arm on the window and pulls out what Arthur Gerard describes as an old-fashioned style cowboy gun, like a revolver with like gold trim around the trigger guard, and he just points it at him and shoots him.
Gerard was shot in the arm. Hernandez used a different car and a different gun, a black powder gun. It's a reproduction and looks like a revolver from the Old West. It was later found in Hernandez's home. It fires a single round. After that first shot, Hernandez struggled to reload, and Gerard ran, jumping into his truck and speeding away. He would make it to the hospital and recover. Hernandez would not use that gun again, but his crime spree was not over. It would intensify, a deadly 4-day series of shootings with a new weapon, a shotgun. It began on August 20th, 2014. Nicole De La Mora was driving to work at 6 in the morning. She was on the 5 freeway near Atwater Village.
And I noticed a vehicle with no lights on, so it kind of drew my attention to the vehicle. I kept my eye on the vehicle the whole way.
Nicole lost sight of the vehicle when she got off the freeway at Colorado Boulevard. She assumed the vehicle with no lights on had continued straight on the freeway.
When I got to the stop sign, it's a dead end where I get off, and you have to make a left or a right. I was starting to make a left, and all of a sudden I heard a hiss and a pop, and I felt wet, like drenched. And I looked down, and it was blood. I didn't understand what happened. I was confused, so I glanced to my side, and I saw that it was the vehicle with no lights on. I just saw his window was down with the shotgun. I saw the shotgun barrel pointed at me, and I'm like, I don't know who this person is. Immediately, I just accelerated and made a left, and I still kept hearing shots after that.
Nicole tried calling 911, but she had been shot in the neck. She couldn't talk. She was lightheaded, dizzy. She says she fought to survive because of her son, looking at the rosary beads on her rearview mirror for guidance. And she did something surprising. She stopped and got out of the car. Those moments captured on surveillance video.
So I ran out of my car and I ran to a guard that was working at the Ralph's parking lot.
The guard called for help. Nicole sat on the side of the road. She would later be rushed to a hospital, but she would survive. She was in the hospital for 10 days. She lost a lot of blood and lost part of her ear. She had wounds to her back and neck.
I'm very fortunate it didn't get my carotid artery.
And while Nicole was in the hospital, she started talking to LAPD detectives.
right away I was giving them descriptions like, you got to catch this guy. He's going to hurt somebody else. He's going to kill somebody.
Those descriptions included the shape, color, and stickers she saw on Hernandez's SUV. And during questioning, she remembered something shocking, a moment seen on that surveillance video. After she was shot, Nicole had approached the Valley killer's vehicle.
And then it came to me like a ton of bricks just dropped on me, like, oh my God. I go, are you telling me that wasn't a dream? I went up to his vehicle and I was talking to the guy.
What? You spoke with him?
I was yelling, trying to yell at him, but it wasn't yelling much because of my trauma. And I said, who are you? What are you doing? Why would you do this?
Did he say anything to you?
No, just a cold stare. Just a evil, cold stare.
That video would later be helpful in connecting Alexander Hernandez to Nicole's shooting, and Nicole would identify him in court. She eventually went back to work and still tries to help others also dealing with trauma. Her car was riddled with bullet holes, so she bought a new one, but those same rosary beads still hang on the rearview mirror.
And I love my life. I was happy I wasn't ready, so I just kept fighting.
It's August 2014. The Valley killer's violent shooting spree is escalating. Just one day after shooting Nicole de la Mora, leaving her seriously wounded, he's back on the streets targeting innocent drivers, this time killing a man who was simply on his way to work. 48-year-old Gildardo Morales was stopped at a traffic signal early in the morning on Glen Oaks Boulevard in Pacoima.
The vehicle was riddled with bullet holes through the back windshield, through the back of the car, and then Mr. Morales, in the driver's seat. And the part that sticks into my mind on that scene for whatever reason is his lunch is right there on the front seat. And without even going into it, that this man just, whether it been his wife or whomever, packed his lunch and he woke up that morning, was going to work like a normal day. Completely unsuspecting person comes up and, as he's waiting for the light, because he was stopped right at a light, comes up right behind that car and just unloads into the back of that car.
An SUV was seen speeding away from the area. For LAPD Detective Josh Byers, it was clear a shotgun had been used, but who fired that weapon was a complete mystery.
No real issues with anyone, never. That's always the first thing you ask during an investigation. Is this guy targeted, or was he sought out? Was somebody upset with him? Was it anything like that? And there was no one that would speak a bad word about Mr. Morales. Hardworking man, took care of his family, was going to work like he did every single day to provide.
Alguien vino y le quitó la vida a la mala por la espalda. Que para mis padres fue algo muy doloroso, para mis hermanos, para mis hijos, para mis sobrinos.
Morales' brother and sister and other members of his family still live in northern LA County, not far from where the shooting occurred, sharing memories of the man they loved. They describe Morales as dignified, serious, a man who earned their respect. He came to the U.S. from Mexico when he was a teenager to provide a better life for his family.
Mi hermano trabajó desde los 16 años, no se casó para ayudar a mis padres porque los llevaba de aquí para México y de allá los traía para acá.
He was like a second father to me, not just to me, but to my sister, my brother, my other cousins.
It's just sad that he didn't get to see more of his life and how it was gonna play out.
Yeah.
And it's sad for me, and I would want to have seen him get older.
I looked up to him. He was like not just a guardian angel.
He was a mentor. He was our mentor.
He was like a great mentor.
They call Hernandez a coward. Morales, like all the other victims, was chosen at random, killed without warning. At the scene, Detective Byers found important evidence.
But I just remember seeing some broken pieces of plastic kind of in the crosswalk almost towards the gutter. Not in his lane, but in a lane next to it, and it was just something, it was like, we need to recover those.
Those pieces of plastic would later play a key role in tying Hernandez and his SUV to the murder.
He'd shot off the mirror housing cover when he shot Gildardo Morales to death. and that mirror housing cover had been recovered at the scene of the Morales murder and ended up being a perfect puzzle fit match back to his car.
Just one day after Morales' murder, Hernandez is caught on video opening fire on Felipe and Karen Rueda as they waited at a stop sign.
The Ruedas were shot at as they were coming home in the evening from Universal Studios. They were followed off the Hollywood freeway and followed as they went to tour their home in West Hollywood. They were shot at multiple times in their truck, thankfully not hit. A sheriff deputy did see the suspect vehicle and saw Hernandez in that shooting and got a partial license plate, but chased him, but he got away.
The partial plate number, yet another clue, but detectives had still not linked all these shootings together. That would soon change. By August 23, 2014, the Valley Killer had opened fire on innocent drivers for 3 consecutive days. Detectives were gathering more clues, but still had yet to tie together 7 separate shootings over a 6-month period. It was this incident caught on video that would break the case wide open. Hernandez drove up to a home in Sylmar, took out a shotgun, and began shooting at several dogs behind this gate. His SUV is seen clearly in this surveillance video, and the people who lived at the home remembered him. They told animal cruelty investigators that the man who shot their dogs was named Alex, and they had given him a ride home the week before.
The dog shooting didn't make any sense. There's no reason for him to target the people in that house, but there was no reason for him to target any of those people. None of this makes any sense. He'd been there the week before in the same car. He told them his name was Alex and took them to his house. So why go back there and shoot their dogs?
Now, animal cruelty investigators know the Valley Killer's name, address, and video of his SUV that ties him to the other shootings. But 3 more people would die the very next day before Alexander Hernandez is caught. The first victim on Sunday, August 24th, is 23-year-old Mariana Franco. Franco was riding in a car with her parents and 2 siblings on their way to early morning mass in the city of San Fernando. It was just before 6 a.m. Surveillance images from a nearby business show Hernandez's SUV approach the Franco's vehicle. The driver, Mariana's father, saw him.
What he describes is this person pulling up next to him in a car and looking at Mr. Franco and saying, "I'm going to kill you," very calmly.
Hernandez would open fire. Mariana Franco died at the scene. Her parents both wounded in the attack. Just minutes later, Hernandez is still on the move, hunting. He drives through a parking lot, approaching one person, but he doesn't shoot. He does open fire just half a block away at the Sylmar Recreation Center. In the parking lot was 29-year-old Michael Planels, looking for cans to recycle. He died at the scene. And then 10 minutes later, Hernandez would kill again, this time shooting 59-year-old Gloria Tovar. She was sitting in her car in Pacoima, waiting to drive a friend to church. LAPD detective Josh Byers was called to the scene.
You knew something was wrong. She had nice clothes on. This was not your normal shooting. Older lady sitting in her car, waiting for a friend to come out.
I can't imagine the fear she must have felt at that very moment, seeing the barrel of that rifle coming towards you. I can't even imagine.
Her niece says Gloria Tovar came to the U.S. from El Salvador, worked hard, and was close to retirement. She was a devoted member of her church and left behind a husband, 3 children, and several grandchildren. And the family grew after Tovar had passed.
She had always dreamed of having a granddaughter because they were all grandboys. Well, she finally had her granddaughter in 2018. So that's bittersweet.
Tovar would be the Valley Killer's final victim.
It was at that crime scene where phone calls started coming in from our detectives at Robbery Homicide Division. They had met with a detective that worked animal cruelty task force, and he was investigating a shooting that appeared to involve the use of a shotgun. And in his case, he had a suspect description, he had a suspect identification, he had a suspect vehicle, and then that vehicle Turned out to be an SUV. Then we start thinking, oh shoot, the case that we handled on the 21st of Mr. Morales, we found components to an SUV, similar color, in the street. So it was at that point where things really started to kind of fall into place.
And soon, Detective Byers would learn about the other shootings of Mariana Franco and Michael Planel's earlier that day.
It just evolved so quickly. I don't know that I've been in a case where things have happened that quickly, where everybody's kind of, we're handling this, you're handling this, somebody else is handling this, but then all of those come together real quick. And you're talking about in an hour's time frame from the shootings in San Fernando, Mission, and Foothill. Those get linked up very quickly to the dog shooting.
A search warrant was obtained, the address confirmed by the animal cruelty investigator. Detectives and a SWAT team soon surrounded a home in Sylmar. Inside was Alexander Hernandez. He tried to escape but was quickly captured. His killing spree finally over. At the home, detectives found this SUV with a damaged side mirror, the same vehicle seen in several surveillance videos. They found this shotgun, ammunition, and the black powder replica pistol used to shoot Arthur Gerard in the arm. Later, Nicole De La Mora would identify Hernandez as the gunman in her case, and other evidence would tie Hernandez to the shooting of Julian Archer. While in custody, Hernandez said very little. There was no explanation for the pain he caused, the trauma to so many families. The question remains unanswered. Why?
I spent 9 years trying to figure out why. I thought a lot about why. I talked to the FBI about why. We tried to think of how to explain to the jury why. The best answer that I can give you is that when Alexander Hernandez is having a bad day, it makes him feel better to kill people. I think it's that simple.
It took years to bring Alexander Hernandez to justice. The case was plagued by delays, including the COVID pandemic. But in 2022, Alexander Hernandez was convicted on 5 counts of murder and many other charges. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. I'm Giovanna Latta. Thanks for watching.